So I remember growing up and seeing black and Hispanic men riding horses in the streets of Compton, Paramount, and Long Beach too, and just being amazed and in awe with these cowboys and just how majestic they looked. And that was a really big part of my childhood memories, and it was an even bigger part of my mom's childhood too. If I can find it, there's a clip of my mom talking about growing up in Compton and just how everyone used to ride horses. And believe it or not, my mom was friends with the rapper Coolio, and his friend used to try and date my mama. And she has this story where he chased her on a horse and scared her. And yeah, my mom has a lot of stories. She knew a lot of people growing up. And if I can find that video, I'm definitely going to include it. It's a short.
To the south or something like that. But right there on El Segundo, Willowbrook and El Segundo, some apartments right there. That's where he used to stay. But he used to come to the house and try to borrow money. And yes, he used to chase me and my friend on the bike. Him and Andrew was the one who chased me on the horse. That was their friend too. That's why I really like horses. Because I was running, I looked back in the fucking horse with the big ass teeth, like, yeah, don't do that shit. Because when I grew up, everybody rode horses in Compton. It was common to see people ride the streets, and he came up to the park.
But anywho, point is, horseback riding culture, black equestrian culture is a big part of Compton's history. And I find it very interesting that that is never really represented or mentioned in movies or TV shows that talk about LA. And that is the whole purpose of me making this video today. I really want to highlight this group called the Compton Cowboys, which is working to preserve this legacy. But first, of course, I want to get into the history of how we got here, and that starts with Equatorian culture in Africa. But before that, my name is Lance, and welcome to my channel A4L. I've been meaning to make this video for a very long time. It's just things have been really busy and hectic for me. A big part of the work that I do involves traveling the country and helping people. And I love this work. I've just been very busy lately. I've been doing 11 and a half hour days, 6-day weeks, making very good money, but I haven't had a lot of free time lately. My laptop broke last week. I got pulled over by a cop today, and that was actually terrifying. And it's just been a lot, and I really want to stay consistent with this, with making these YouTube videos. So I'm in my car, my rental car, outside my job, on a break, filming this. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm happy to have you here. So the earliest historical evidence of African American cowboys is found in South Carolina, where enslaved men were trafficked from Senegal specifically because of their knowledge of cattle. So, in other words, these men were brilliant and very skilled, and those skills were needed and exploited in the building of America. Now, over time, as we know, these men and their skills were sold to different parts throughout the American South, and it's post 1865 that we see this migration of black cowboys out west, especially from southern states like Texas to western ones like California. And so when we talk about California specifically and these cowboys, keep in mind that these men already had skills, but it was a combination of their skills and those of the vaqueros, which are Mexican cowboys that immigrated north from Mexico into California, that transformed the state. And the cultural impact of these two groups is still felt to this day. And contrary to media representation, 1 in 4 cowboys in the West were black. And something I think a lot of people don't actually know is that cowboy actually originated as a pejorative, with cowhand being the equivalent for white men. So, regardless of age, black American men were called boys, and this practice has its origins in slavery and plantation culture. And let's not forget, these cowboys were talented and they were expected to do a lot. They were expected to cook, hunt, perform songs, serve as nurses and bodyguards, and transport money on behalf of white cattle herders. That's how you say that, right? Cattle herders? Yeah. And so I want to highlight some black cowboys throughout history, starting with one of the most known, Nat Love, also known as Deadwood Dick. Excuse me. So Nat Love was born in 1854 in Tennessee, into slavery. So he was born a slave. And what was unique about his upbringing, and which was unusual for the time, was that he learned how to read and write from his father. So, of course, you know, most slaves were illiterate, so he was very exceptional in that regard to be able to read and write. So, after the end of slavery, he ended up traveling out west and he accomplished some incredible things. He learned Spanish. He became very famous for his rodeo performances, and he also published an autobiography in 1907 among a lot of other achievements. And truly a whole video could be made about Nat Love. Another fascinating story is that of Isam Dart, who was not only a cowboy, but he was an outlaw too. His life story, I mean, really, all of these guys that I'm mentioning, their life stories are like movies. But Islam was also an outlaw, and so similar to Nat, he was born into slavery and then traveled west after being freed. He had a lot of adventures, and he ended up in Mexico, where he started a career as a horse thief. And similar to Nat, a whole video could be made about Islam as well. But in this video and with the videos that I make, I just like to give a brief synopsis and can definitely go more into depth if that's something that's requested. But ultimately, Islam lived a very exciting life, and it ended up ending because he was killed by a detective. And there are also some other notable names too. There's Pete Staples, who was a former slave as well. Boys Ickard or Boise. I hope I'm saying that right. Boseikard. You can look him up. There's Jim Perry. There's Daniel Wallace, and all of these men have incredible stories, and videos can definitely be made on them too. Just let me know. And even beyond these names, there's many, many more. There's John Swain. There's John Batavia, Thornton Biggs, Print Olive, Henry Harris, George Washington, George Robinson, Zebrian Bates, John Clark, etc., etc., etc. So there's a lot of stories and a lot of narratives out there about these black cowboys, and I really encourage that if you watch this to look into them and go even deeper with the history than what I'm giving you here. And I really want to emphasize too that these names that I'm venerating in this video are exceptional stories. I don't want to steer away from the fact that your average cowboy lived an ordinary life with limited social mobility, and they were oftentimes illiterate. So the overwhelming majority of these cowboys were really just seeking refuge and safety from the racial violence and trauma that existed in the South. And this is also not to imply that the West was free of this trauma, because in fact we had hundreds, if not several thousands, of sundown towns, which that could be another video too. But basically, if you don't know, the whole concept of a sundown town is that if you were a black person that was found after sunset, anything could happen to you. And then even in places like Oregon, it was completely illegal for black people to live in the state up until the 1920s. So the West wasn't necessarily this utopia, but it did afford certain opportunities, and that was the motivation of these men in their westward movement, just like the Great Migration. So to bring this video full circle, there's a group that is not only preserving this legacy of Black Equatorian culture, but also serving as an extension of it. And I really just wanted to highlight them, and they're called the Compton Cowboys. And their whole mission is to positively impact the youth of Compton through sharing their passion of horses and also combating stereotypes of us African Americans. And I really just think that's amazing. And that's really all I have for this video. Like I said, it's been hectic, and I'm just really trying to do my best to stay consistent with putting these videos out. I have so many ideals of things that I want to do, and it's really just a matter of finding the time to get to doing it. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If there is anything that you would like to be expanded on, please feel free to let me know. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I do appreciate you. Thank you.